to open the workshop for Wednesday, February 18th. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Here.
DeCalagero?
Here.
Martin?
Present.
Holson?
Present.
Slaughter? Thomas?
Here.
Buffalo. Here. Going to move on to 2.01, Board Goal 5, Measure 1 and 2. Dr. Paul?
Thank you, Ms. Buffalo. And as usual, our data expert, Ms. McGarity, is going to come to the mic and share the updates for
And I promise this time I do not have a bunch of acronyms. We're going to talk in full words this whole time. So Board Goal 5 is about students on track for advanced diploma. I'm going to leave this here as I kind of talk through. So we're looking at the data with this goal. So I will start with, I do want to remind everybody as we're, I didn't say good evening. Good evening. Chair Moore Buffalo, Vice Chair DeCalagero, board members, Dr. Pohl, and anybody watching here or.
This is 5.2, just so you know.
Yes, I'm going backwards. I'm sorry.
You are going backwards.
Yes,
Oh,
I am. And it'll make sense why in a second.
And I think I know why.
Yeah, okay. Yep. So I do want to remind where we are as we're talking about high school courses and things like that, that coming out of what we typically would be quarter 2 in full year courses is the end of course for 4x4. So we'll talk about some of that, why, and then, we're looking at 4.2 because I want to look at the cohort that is attempting to graduate now. We'll talk through what that looks like and then kind of layer on the next year's cohort because one kind of describes the next one as well. With here, what we're seeing overall is a slight increase here of 1.3 percentage points in the students on track for advanced diploma. Historically, that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing drops at this point of year. But as we talked about in the beginning, we look at this as students who are enrolled in the right courses, students who are enrolled in the right courses with grades. The measure numerically are with grades. But without, what we're seeing is those two things have come together. So with that, that's really telling us students are completing the courses in first semester and they are enrolled in the appropriate courses. So we're not dropping with the enrollment piece of it, and it has come together. We do have some students that are full year as well that are also captured here. With this piece, what we feel like is going well, we are still climbing a little bit. With this cohort is really the 4x4 schedule in itself almost creates speedier systems, I guess, in that piece where we've talked about and what the next steps have been and the tasks have really been counselors meeting with the students, but also reviewing coursework, things like that. So can we add courses on to look that are appropriate to kind of move kids forward for advanced diploma and those kinds of things. With that, what is also concurrently going on is that leadership teams, and it's really the instructional teams, are meeting and they're having to have more of a focus, a faster pace with their focus during those meetings as well because the coursework is moving so quickly. So interventions are going in place sooner and things like that. This is not to say that schools were not meeting and not focused on that before, but if we kind of consider where the end of year is in conjunction, it's the same time that they're really focusing within the course, but they are on what interventions do individual students need, what do we, for successful completion of that course. That is all just happening at a faster clip, but is really relevant to full year courses when it's the longer time span. So an example of an intervention that really, and the usage is increasing is tutor.com. So kids are really getting in, looking at what and they are able to go in and say, I need help with X. So with their teams, when they say, what are those things that you need? Where are we struggling? When they're looking at the kids' records and things like that, as the leadership team, they're able to say, okay, here's the thing, tutor.com, it might be something else within the school that they put in place for that student to make sure they stay on track for that advanced diploma versus, okay, we're seeing you fail halfway through, let's start withdrawing from courses. So that is one of those things that I'm happy to see that has not shifted for us where it is with the enrollment part compared to with grading. This cohort, however, so when we're kind of looking at things as what's not going well, what we can tell is that, performance is still the piece of it too, right? Like if they are not performing well, they didn't pass at the end of the course. However, we're not seeing as much of a dip as we have in the past at this time of year. However, this is the cohort that is attempting to graduate now. Not now today, but now May. And with that piece of it, really, there is not as much wiggle space to add coursework on to kind of shift that trajectory. It really kind of is what it is at this point. So I say all that to really say that even though we can't really make shifts, I am happy to see that we did not see drops where the enrollment and because big drops, because then that means they pulled a whole bunch of kids out of coursework. They have kept them in, they have provided the supports, and it is a combination of things that is helping that happen. I think the biggest thing is the 4x4, one thing almost makes the other thing happen. So it's not, again, like I said, not that schools were not meeting in focus, they just were not having to focus in the same way at the same clip that we are now. So there is just constant meeting, constant review, constant checks, constant put them into interventions and those kinds of things. All right, so that's 5.2, and as always, I can barely see. So this is 5.1. With 5.1, this is the 2027 cohort, which is the final data point that we're looking at. With this cohort, there is more space for things. So what we are seeing is that there is actually an uptick of students' grades getting better. So we're, again, all of those same pieces for 5.1 that we just talked about really are relevant for this cohort as well. It's one of those things focusing earlier on, focusing at the faster clip. Interventions are coming into play at a faster clip, which then are practiced, again, in course, quicker behind the intervention. We're seeing where it is going up, so kids are being more successful at this point in the year. But again, courses ended. So we have more finality to what we know at this point than we have in the past with the full year courses. And we also see that with this same cohort that enrollment, if we look at it just based on enrollment, there's not big divides. So those things have come together. And we're seeing 4.1 percentage points increased compared to quarter one. When we're talking about it with grades included, and actually if we talk about without grades included, it's another percentage point up. We know the metric is with grades, but that's a piece that we can use because that's going to tell us, are we pulling kids out? Are we not? And we're not seeing the decline there. Those same things attribute just that kind of multidisciplinary look at the kids, what needs they need, and getting them in place faster. One thing different with this cohort that we're seeing is that there are the highest percentage, which is of courses, is really in the area of math. And really that is with the full year courses. So again, everybody else, they came out, they were finished and completed, and we saw passing because they're still enrolled in those pieces and moving forward. Because if they didn't pass it, it would not count in here as part of the on track because it would drop. But we're seeing that in the area of math, but again, we're able to turn that around, get some interventions in place. Tutor.com with those increases is one of the resources with other things that are going on as well.
Are there full-year math courses that are not AP?
So most of them, the full year is going to be AP and that kind of thing. But again, we see that bounce around, whether it's AP or not AP, that are the full year piece. There's very few.
Okay, so there's very few non-AP full-year courses.
And they're correct, yes, at all. So yeah, so that's one of those, but that's still, as we talked about, like when the grad coaches were everybody's looked at in those meetings. So even if it is an AP student who, if something's starting to kind of fall apart, minimally or not, they're able to kind of jump in at that point as well. So they're still reviewed and intervened as needed. Might look a little different than it is if it's a kid in Algebra 1 versus an AP course. But that is one of the areas of math with this cohort that we kind of see that area drop a little bit. That's pretty much it for these two reports quickly. You know, the question is always what's working. I think the 4x4 in itself is kind of with the systems that were already in place and just upticking that pace of what the systems are in place with the instructional teams, as well as just the pace of the courses, is what's making a difference. Where we're not seeing that just volatile data kind of up and down, like, and it's not as reactive, just because they're having to move so quickly with purpose. Right, so for goal 5, that's,
I was just going to make a comment about what's going well. I see it says here that the 2027 cohort who are currently on track for advanced studies diploma, 95.7% have already earned 60%
of their verified.
credit.
Yeah. So that, I pulled that out to highlight in the report just because that has not always been the case.
Right.
And so that, which means they still have a couple, because most of the time, with this cohort, they're still a year out. So they're all sitting in English 11 and all those kinds of things. So they really are what that shows us is they are being more successful as they come up. And with that, they've got 2 more that they'll take this year because they're likely sitting in English 11 now. So they'll take reading and writing this year. So we just have that piece. There are some that, they've got some needs and that don't have as many because maybe something earlier on, but we have more those opportunities for them.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Ms. Pacine. Yes.
Thank you for this report. Are you I know we're looking at these 2 cohorts. Are you seeing similar patterns in 2028?
I'll say yes, but I say that with the caveat that if you look at a initial 9th grader, right? So our kiddos that have just come into 9th grade, they still have a lot of time. The big catch has always been world languages,
Yeah.
right? Like, so they struggle with world languages. So because they only need 3, it isn't until they're in 10th grade that it's like, okay, we're behind. Right. And so, but now, where we have to kind of start looking at it. So 9th grade, I say, we're not really seeing a pattern other than the majority of the kids ready. Right. Because grades wise and stuff, we look at that, just say, where are we seeing failures? It's pretty much the 4 cores where the big, and I say failures not of the course, but at that time where that their overall grade might be below, passing. The next cohort, yeah, essentially those same kind of patterns that we're seeing, and I just think some of it's just strength coming up, and one of the big focuses has been somewhat last year and then even doubling down this year, which I think the hope is we see it continue up like at a higher space, is because the focus is earlier. We're not focusing on this end, right? But we're trying not to be as reactive. And I say we, I mean that as a division. And with that piece, so they're looking at that 9th grade group. If something does start to go sideways, it's intervened with quickly. What does that look like? What can we do versus being reactive, waiting for senior year? So trying to squeeze the middle. So that's kind of with that and in conjunction, we just aren't necessarily seeing the fruits of that because it's, we've had Ms. Moore in place, the senior coordinator for student engagement, and that's really been her focus, and it's kind of was a focus before that, but just not in the same way that she's put systems in place for them for that.
Okay, and so you mentioned, and I was going to ask about the world languages, and specifically those, the group of students who are, failing one or more courses. And I believe, in the report, you talk about math being a key area. World languages was up there too at one point.
So world languages was up there based on they weren't even enrolled.
Okay.
In the course, yes. So they were not even there, which is
A different,
that's kind of that issue of we've taken that off the plate once we're past the point of them being able to get their 3 credits, right? That's off the plate. So that was more about even having them in the course. So when we started this, there was this set that we sent back to the school review their records. Is it appropriate for them to get in because they still have time? And that kind of thing. But, so world languages, it wasn't as
It wasn't the failure, it was the more the access.
enrolled. Yep, absolutely.
So with math, though, what are some key reasons for, what are some key factors related to why they are failing?
And it's, what I find interesting is that I found it interesting with this cohort because what we're talking about are the full year courses, which are the higher advanced courses. That math,
That's where you're seeing.
that's where we're going to see it because it really wasn't showing up as much when we looked at quarter one, which is halfway through the fall 4x4. Keep wanting to say spring. I'm trying to fast forward. So with that it wasn't showing up as much. So I do, to be exact, why? Don't know that I can tell you why. Something.
And do they all have certified math teachers in there, or?
I wouldn't be able to say,
I mean, so that's the broader.
yes, but that's,
question.
yeah, kind of what's going on with that piece of it.
Right.
Students are still really.
Yes.
My guess is if we actually looked at which courses.
Well, that's what, the administration, if there's something that we could do to support our teachers, whether it's certification, if it is around AP and they're not quite yet comfortable teaching the content or format, what can we do to enhance that? So that there is greater confidence around it for the teacher, or that we increase certification on that front.
And just a note, we do reserve funds in Title II for advanced placement training. So all of our teachers have opportunity to go to, not on an annual basis, but when they're new within that first year of teaching it. And then on a regular basis thereafter to make sure that they stay up to date on the latest with the curriculum. College Board.
And did we offer that to our teachers who were previously?
Yeah, so anytime someone moves into an AP course, if it's early enough, we get them into a training early on or before they teach it. If they're moved into it like in August and we've missed it, then we make sure within the first year they have that training, but we hook it up with a mentor as well. Have someone to converse with, because most of those are what we call singletons at the school, so it's one teacher teaching the one course at that level, so they don't have someone to collaborate with in the building, but we make sure across the division they do, and then that's where Dr. Jones, our secondary senior math coordinator, also makes sure there's connection.
But with our Title II funds, do we have enough funds allocated for that purpose? You do, okay, all right. All right, and then as far as what is, I wanted to know a little more about tutor.com, because you talked a lot about that. And that seems to be, outside of the 4x4, a strategy that you meaning the division is using to, for those kids who are failing or falling behind, are using. How is that being shared with families, and how are we monitoring usage of it? Like, are you able to say, like, what percentage of those students actually use it?
We can get a usage list, yeah, so that's how we're able to say usage has gone up. Again, it's not
Like-
in the stratospheres, but we're seeing it go up, and we can see that's something we monitor, is that use going up?
Like, do you know, like, right now, like, could you tell us that of the students who are failing or not on track, I should say that, put it that way, not on track to complete, 90% of them are using tutor.com, for instance?
I would not be able off the top of my head right now, but that is something that we can work towards putting together to say, but I do want to say that tutor.com was an example. Yes, I mentioned it multiple times, but it's not the only thing being used, and because it might be a person-to-person. tutoring session and things like that, tutor.com. So it really depends, and so I just pulled that out just because we have seen the increase in usage, which is exciting, and that kind of thing. But it's not the only way that they're attending to what the students need, because they get, when they are in that multidisciplinary team, the reports that they're pulling in, things we've provided, Power School, as well as they're able to pull, like, what are kids' grades right now? And if it's a failing grade, then they start looking at what's best for that kid. Might be tutor.com, it might be a person, it might be, so that does shift around, but I wanted to highlight that one just because it is something that,
I appreciate that, but I also wanted to, for my colleagues, just expand on the reason I'm asking that is, how do we leverage strategies that are working? And how do we know whether they're working or not, but also leveraging those so that we provide stronger supports for students. So we see, like you said,
Right.
that advancement.
I appreciate the question, Ms. Basine. And so if you guys recall, last year, really right around this time, I think it was the beginning of February, we had been partnering with FEV Tutor, and they closed shop. So we did a new RFP. We had principals and central office folks on the committee, and we landed on tutor.com. So this is our first year of implementing it, and I think we've done a much better job of really sharing what it's capable of with our teachers, with our students. Our media team has blasted on social media, I'm sure you've seen, because it has SAT prep, ACT prep, it has AP prep on it. There are several avenues on there. So we're actually seeing an increased usage of it, but it's too early to tell if there's any, we will dig into the data to say, okay, the students, that were off track, that used it, did we see growth so that we can further implement it better?
right.
The nice thing about tutor.com is it's a set fee.
Yeah.
So we could have we can have 6,000 students on it or 600 students on it, same cost. So we are absolutely trying to utilize it the best we can because it's a better cost advantage to us then. So we are looking forward to the years to come to seeing how that is working out. They've been around for a long time. I think they're part of Princeton Review, is that
Yes.
right? So they're a longstanding
Right. Oh,
company,
yeah.
so.
I mean, yeah, that's why I was curious about what percentage of our students are using it that may be off, so that, I know the one-on-one tutoring is obviously, most ideal. So just trying to gauge, what all of those are that are working so that we can, invest more in those things.
And one of the things that is nice about tutor.com, just to kind of layer the piece, is that we can even see, it gives us in the extract, like, what are the kids asking? So as we've talked about in the other, lots of the other reports, we keep talking about that down to the student standard in detail. So it's one of those that as people are using that more, even in the high schools, to say, okay, here's some areas, looking at it through whatever lens, Mastery Connect or the former SOLs, things like that, they're able to kind of ask specifically, I need help with X. And so it's not just kind of this broad, open-ended math, which, doesn't hit the nail on the head and starts wasting a lot of kids' time, and that's what we don't want to do. So that's a nice, and we can see that. So over time, we'd be able to kind of, what are the, not right, being the first year, not as much, but over time, we'd be able to start seeing, like, we're seeing more math use of it than we are reading or something like that.
Are you able to pin it down to which courses they're using it most for?
Maybe. It doesn't say in the extract it is from this course, because it's also a kid can use it just for, they can make the request for it, but we could put it together with where are they sitting at the time.
I think it would be courses and seeing,
That,
are they actually utilizing it for those full year math courses, or do we go into the classrooms and have the teachers then hype it up in the classroom, showing them the website and all that other stuff?
Just for clarity, we have done that as well. So we have gone specifically to our secondary teachers to say, specific resources, you can assign this to your students, and you can assign it by standard. Here's exactly what you need to focus on with the tutor on tutor.com. So.
Any more questions at this part? Going on to
Alrighty.
the absenteeism.
all right, chronic absenteeism, and so, okay. I'm going to do chronic absenteeism first. This will be really quick as well. Chronic absenteeism, we're seeing increases here. So from 17 to 19, so 17.3 to 19.9. For chronic absenteeism, what's going well at this point, and I know we're seeing increases, but we are still providing the data to the schools where they're able to look at student rosters to see why they're absent, what those areas are, to be able to kind of, do they need to come from a resources space, or do they need to come from, another focus. One piece, we do typically see some increasing, not, and sometimes it's different schools and things like that, but quarter two, we typically will see increases because we're coming out of winter break. So kids either leaving early or coming back. And then what we are hearing is a lot of medical things going on. I had both strains of the flu, so I get it. We're hearing a lot of hand, foot, and mouth. Those are all anecdotal, but it is one of those that this year, that is what we're getting anecdotally, is a lot of that about chronic absenteeism.
10% of the time, so are we
So
looking at?
far. So when we do this, we say, we do it as if the year was ending now. Have they hit 10% of their time so far of the year?
Of the days that they could be in school, had they missed more than 10%?
Yeah, so so what happens is that as the days go on, if it's a situation where a kid has had the flu and they're out for a week, it may or 2 weeks, right? Like, it may look like they've hit their 10% at that point, but as the days go on and they're not absent, then it starts to, they come off the list. So we look at it, and that really, I know there's always opinions about which way to look at it, but it really is, you start to be able to see if it's chronic or not, because then that kid doesn't fall off the list. Did what we put in place help? And if it did, then for that kiddo, then we start to see that they're falling off the list of 10% or more of their school year as the year goes on, and that kind of thing. And remember, so what we are hearing is a lot of illness. It is not unusual that it's going up. However, we'd like to see it come down for sure. One thing that is in place right now and that we typically see good results from that are not in play yet is the attendance recovery. So all the schools are beginning with their attendance recovery programs where students, and it's coupled a lot of times with remediation, kind of pushes towards the end of the year, because if they're not at school, they're not learning. So they have that in place. So a few hours with a certified teacher then equates to earning back a day of attendance. So that all starts to come in, and we'll start to also take days away that are considered absent now that might not be for that same kid moving forward. So next quarter's data is hopefully where we start to see if that is moving. For dropouts, I'm excited about this one. I know the number, and I will say why I'm excited about this one, and it's not just because I'm weird and like data. It really is that we're seeing that it is leveling, like it's holding still. We do want to see it go down, yes, but we're also lower than we've been in a long time. Again, I think a lot of the Goal 5 next steps, or those things we have in place, those systems starting earlier so that they are, and then also with the 4x4, it is capturing kids who might be at risk in the moment. It is catching them before they do drop, right? So what we're seeing are students who they are working through recovery of mostly, because what it seems like is the at-risk kids are not dropping like they have in the past. Again, lots of things in place. Quickly, that clip, and it's not just of the course, but of the parallel focus there, that multidisciplinary team focus with the grad coaches, because on top of with the dropout, the kids who are at risk for anything, there's that first layer like we talked about in Goal 5, then there's the layer of supports on top of that if they're really showing at risk for those 3 areas that Ms. Moore talked to us about when they did the grad coach piece. So it's holding still, which also one of the things going out of last year when we talked about end of year is that because we did see that number come down at the end of the year, is that it's showing us that a lot of the reactive things were working.
What is that?
So last year, at the end of the year, was 12.5, so the final finally came out, if we're talking about the final for last year's cohort. So with that, but that's showing we were at 14.2, 14.9, 15.9, 14.9, and then dropped to 12.5, which shows those end-of-year supports and summer supports were working, and that has been a big focus, again, of how do we pull that forward for this cohort.
So is this the cohort that should be graduating this year?
Yeah. So this is the cohort, yes. So yes, they're different kids as we're comparing them, but if I'm looking at it from the perspective of what's working, then that is one of those where we can see, obviously what we did at the end of the year had an impact, a positive impact, because we went from 14.9 to 12.5 with that group. It wasn't just all of a sudden they showed back up at school. So with now this year, pulling those things that we put in place, and the 4x4 somewhat is just creating that situation, which is a positive, right? We've had a lot of discussions coming out of last year. And like I just went to one of the schools today, talking with the counselors, how do we get things off of kids' plates earlier? Like, we need to quit waiting and kind of pushing things out when, let's go ahead, tie it up for that kid in that area and be done. So they really are doing a good job, Mr. Brady and his team really, they're doubling down on that with everybody too, when we're looking at scheduling and all those things, to really make sure kids have the supports they need also, but that, we're not it's frustrating if you have everything to do. So that's where that verified credit piece is exciting, is because we've got kids with more verified credits because let's get it done, get it out. Versus let's wait till year 5 and you have all of it to do. And that kind of thing, or year 4. Sorry, I said 5 for what reason, I don't know. Yes, yeah, means to, so that's one of those, again, the numbers, we want to see that come down and work towards getting that down, and that, even for this cohort and that kind of thing, but, on the positive side of it and what's working, that multidisciplinary team, those interventions and that clip are really the things that appear to be helping support that happening.
Thank you, Ms. McGarry. So as it relates to this report, so in the, this is helpful information for us to kind of understand where we are. But what is our understanding of what the root causes are for chronic absenteeism that we are, talking about it in here in the boardroom, that we can address? And I'm asking that because, I want to know about what other supports, in an ideal world, what supports would you need? Like, what are the supports that you need to reduce chronic absenteeism? Mm-hmm. Is it, are there social issues that we need more social workers, counselors? Do our attendance technicians need more support? Because it looks like they're tasked with doing a lot. It seems like even more than before. And one of the things that you cited, that you talked about, were the attendance recovery and the benefit of having those in place.
Yeah.
And that's something in the last few years that we've seen has made an impact. So if we know that they're having an impact, why are they started kind of later in the year? And is that a resource issue, or is it just an implementation issue that we need to get better, ahead of?
There are, and Dr. Paul, if I don't state all of it, I know one of the biggest pieces is that there are requirements around who does it. So it has to be a certified teacher to do the time. So, there's, teachers don't always want to do it, and they, because it can't be during the school day. It's got to be, and some of them do. So I think timing, as a former teacher, going into second semester, I have maybe some more space, things like that. Funding wise, I know there's some funding sources that don't come in till, like the one we did last time. It's not the only one that gets used, but I don't know that I could say truthfully it's the funding source. I think people are a struggle wanting to do it, just because, but
I think on the other side too, though, it's also more of a struggle when a student's only missed 2 days and you're saying, hey, come for attendance recovery makeup after school, and they're like, I've only missed 2 days, and to us, it's like, well, you're already chronic absentee because it's the first month and you missed 2 days, to where when you were at this point of the year, we're saying, no, you're chronically absent, it's going to affect, it's affecting you, it's affecting your academics and others, and then getting them to come in is a different story.
Right.
So there's kind of that balance, and right now is the sweet spot in the year where they've hit it, and there's no looking back, and they have to do it. As we go further into 4x4, we'll see more of that happen first semester than we did this semester, just because of just the mechanics of making that work to start with.
Right.
But that's a big play of it, too.
Right, sure. And I think it would be more interesting in tying this, and this is going to be the second part of my comment, tying this to our board goals. This was originally wrapped up in Goal 1, which we agreed to, delete. So this report and this information and data, I think, how do we connect it to our board goals? So it's, how's chronic absenteeism correlating to those students that are off track or not proficient, not meeting the literacy goals, and specifically targeting, supports toward those students that are chronically absent and not doing well. Because there are some that may be absent and thrive, learning and doing their work in other ways. Not saying that, you shouldn't come to school, but, there are some students that do learn differently. And so how do we target those supports and then fund what we need to fund as far as incentives for teachers to create space for that attendance recovery, or really tutoring, instead of what if we called it something else that was more appealing, or if it was just strictly, like a tutoring session, to get students.
Yeah, and I think with that too, a lot of the schools couple it with SOL remediation, and it's not they're waiting for the kids to get behind, but you kind of know more, right? Because elementary, middle are not 4x4. We're kind of in that full year space, so then also they can couple it with more things. So the kids aren't, you're here for this, and there for that, you know what I mean, more and more days. So that's a piece of it too, that with starting second semester with that piece of it. And I think, the attendance techs have been phenomenal. Even recently, they email me, hey, can I get access to this? Because we have a couple different chronic absenteeism reports that we use for the schools. There's some things in Power School. There's some things that we run with the state definition, which is where we pull this from. And with that, they've been going in and asking really good questions that I know they're looking, right? So but it's one that was kind of across a couple schools. Do you know what I mean? If they're having to share or fill in for somebody who might not be, and that kind of thing.
Right.
That's that piece that they do a great job, because they're also meeting with, talking with parents, and they're able to give that team that's sitting down to review kids, here's the set of kids, versus the team spending their time figuring out who the kids are. They know, and they can go into that planning of the next step, versus, so the attendance techs have been amazing and a huge support.
No doubt. I've, over the years have talked to some of them and have, part of the thing is, okay, they know what it is, but they have to then give that information out. And then it's what happens after? It's do we have enough supports to support them so that they're successful at doing what they're doing? And so that's the ultimate question, is, in an ideal world, do we get the input of the attendance techs, and do we, what does the estimate of need really look like for,
Right.
conquering this? And so that's,
I was just going to say, kind of, they actually have the resources that
right.
are out in the community.
I will say, what I do know is Miss Moore, who the senior coordinator we talked about with the dropouts, she meets with them regularly and providing professional development. She does, if there's somebody new that sometimes they're coming in, there was a vacancy gets filled or whatever it might be, she's immediately out there to onboard with the supports and resources. And
Yes,
So I will say that part of it, I do know that which before did not have as much connection to somebody to provide those. Because no matter what, if you're doing it, you still have to kind of understand what all of the stuff in front of you is.
all of the
And
resources.
that's the piece that we've been able to provide, and I say we as a division, but Ms. Moore has really spearheaded all of that, been able to put in place this year and meet with them regularly to also get their feedback and things. What that feedback is, I don't know. But that is something I can definitely find out from her, but also what their needs are and those kinds of things to be even more supportive.
Such a difficult job when you have to deal with other people's families and circumstances. But I applaud all the work that's being done, and
Yes, I will pose that to Ms. Moore as well, yeah. All right, that is all for me. Unless there's any questions.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Oh, do you need your?
want me to do it.
So
Hold
we're
on a
going to
second.
move on to 2.02, redistricting plan for Oceanair, Norview Elementary, and Mary Calcott Elementary School. Dr. Pohl.
All right, thank you again, Ms. Moore Buffalo and board members. I'm going to let Mr. Fraley introduce our guest today, who, interestingly enough, we mentioned the outfits on this side of the room. I wore that same exact tie yesterday, the same exact tie, so we too were matching at one point. But as you're aware, you know, this has been a work in progress now for quite a few months, and we're excited to bring to the board the recommendations for redistricting prior to having a public hearing during the next board meeting, and hopefully a vote a month from today. So with that, I'll let Mr. Fraley take it away to introduce our guest.
Good evening. Board Chair Moore Buffalo, Vice Chair DeCollegiero, Dr. Pohl, members of the board, folks watching at home. This evening, we will discuss the redistricting plan for year one school closures. Before I do that, I'll introduce members of our committee. Kristen McGarity with ARA. Wave, please, Kristen. Patrick Rostock with ARA. Kelly Cito with pre-K and a bunch of other stuff. Glenda Walters with learning support. Ashley Fussell, the Senior Director of Transportation, and we have a new consultant who specializes in redistricting, and this is Andrew Bishop, and he's going to take the podium here in just a second. So in September, October of 2025, the NPS School Board approved the closure of 9 schools. This coming year, 26-27, the schools that are scheduled to close are Norview Elementary School, Oceanair Elementary School, and Willoughby Early Childhood Center. Tonight's plan will focus on these closures and the redistricting of the students who attend those schools. I'll begin with just a little bit of background information. NPS has a total enrollment of 26,328 students. That's broken down with pre-K as 1,574. Elementary school enrollment is 12,154, middle school enrollment 5,443, and high school enrollment 7,157. We currently operate 49 school facilities. 3 of those are early childhood centers, 26 are elementary schools, 2 are 3-8s, and 4 are K-8s. We have 5 middle schools, we have 5 high schools, and then we have some singlets: Norfolk Technical Center, Madison's Alternative Learning Center, Camp Young, and CSEP. So 45 of the aforementioned schools are the schools that we define our capacity, which is right at 36,000 students. And our enrollment currently reveals we have over 9,000 empty seats in pre-K through 12. So we have approximately 4,812 open seats in our 26 elementary schools, which represents an average building utilization of 69%. This level of underutilization results in hundreds of unused seats across the system in our specific schools we're going to discuss. Inefficient deployment of staff and resources, elevated per student costs for utilities, maintenance, and operations. So tonight's presentation reveals the start of about a 3-year redistricting plan that will begin with the reduction of our open seats in elementary schools by more than 3,000 seats and raise our average utilization for elementary schools to be right at 86%, which is right in line with our goals. I'd like to share one more reminder before I ask Andrew to come up. Norfolk Public Schools completed facility assessments in 24-25. All of our school facilities were evaluated and received a new facility composite index score. That data was used to drive the closure as well as the redistricting plan you'll hear this evening. At this time, I'd like to welcome our redistricting expert, Andrew.
Thank you, Rick. So I'll just continue where we left off. So in September of 2025, the NPS board did approve to close 9 schools over the next 3 years. And so as Rick mentioned, in 26-27, we're talking about the closures of Norview, Ocean Air, and Willoughby. Next, in the 27-28 school year, we'll be tackling the closures of Ghent K8, Granby, Lindenwood, PB Young, and Tarleton. And then finally, in 28-29, we'll address the closure of Chesterfield Academy. So again, tonight we're just talking about the year 1 closures. So by closing these 9 schools, NPS can reduce the long-term capital renewal obligations and achieve meaningful operations and budget savings. We can concentrate investments on fewer, better utilized schools, and we can support the rebuilding, renovation, and repurposing of schools that are aligned with the long-range facilities master plan. These closures are being coordinated with the available capacity at nearby schools, transportation and boundary considerations, and the planned repurposing, rebuilding, and renovation of select facilities. And so Woolpert and NPS administration and staff have developed a redistricting plan for the 26-27 school year, which we're calling year 1. And we're attempting to increase utilization at the receiving schools so that they that have excess capacity. And we're trying to, as Rick said, move closer to 85-86% utilization at our remaining facilities. We want to reduce the reliance on aging and inefficient buildings, place students in facilities with better infrastructure, recent upgrades, and improved learning conditions, and provide additional instructional resources and core academic classes. So we'll move on to what we're looking at first. The way this presentation will roll out is we'll address each of the closures separately and look at them more in detail. First, we're going to look at Ocean Air Elementary and Willoughby Early Childhood Center, since they are very close to each other. So this first map you see, this is the current attendance boundaries of Ocean Air. So that's that kind of brown color in the middle. When we look at our redistricting, what we do is I look at all of the current attendance areas of the district, and then I split those boundaries up into what I call planning units. So those black lines you see on the map, each one of those little blocks is a planning unit. And it's hard to see here, but there are numbers in each of those planning units. And so that's how we reference the planning units through the presentation. And it's these little puzzle pieces that we'll look at enrollment from each of these and move them around to see what impact it may have at receiving schools. And so quickly, there's a table right there in the bottom right-hand corner. That just shows the current utilization for 25-26 school year. So you see the current enrollment and the capacity. When you divide enrollment over capacity, it tells us how full that school is. And as Rick said, right now, elementary schools, we're operating around 69% utilization district-wide. You can see Bayview's right at that district average, 69%. Calcott, 74% utilized. Again, that's a little bit of a smaller campus. You look at Ocean View, 67%. So again, right around a little bit below district average. And you look at Ocean Air, 82%. That's, when you look at that, that's kind of what we're trying to achieve. But again, that is our smallest school in that quadrant of 4 schools. And so that's why, smaller enrollment would show a higher utilization. We'll move to the next slide here. And so on the next map, what you'll see this is what we are recommending as the proposed boundaries for each of the receiving schools. So the lighter blue up on the left, that would be aligned with Ocean View. The green in the bottom left, that's Calcott, and then the darker blue on the right, that would be Bayview. And so what we're really proposing here is splitting Ocean View or Ocean Air's boundary in half along Chesapeake. And all of the planning units that would be east of Chesapeake, they would all be reassigned to the Bayview boundary. And then the areas on the west side of Chesapeake, they would be split between Ocean View and Calcott. And so the next couple slides, we'll zoom in on these areas, get a little bit more detail so you can see the makeup of these neighborhoods. So the first area we're going to look at is Planning Unit 17. So this is currently the Mariners Watch neighborhood. This is right where Ocean Air is, and this is a very dense planning block for the blocks that make up Ocean Air's boundary. And so in our proposal, it is proposed that only Planning Block 17 would move from Ocean Air to Calcott. And so that would be, you know, all of the homes on Mariners Way, Warwick Avenue, and Leicester Avenue there. And then as we go to the next slide, this is planning units 18 and 19. So these are the neighborhood. This is the neighborhood just north of Ocean Air. You're talking about Lenox Avenue, Gilpin, Randall, a little bit of Leicester, and Ocean Avenue. So all of those homes we would propose moving to Ocean View, along with areas along the golf course, and then just to the north of the golf course, you'll see there's Pinewell Station and Royal Mesa Apartments. So those two apartment communities, again, they're west of Chesapeake. They would be reassigned to Ocean View. And then the next slide, this shows planning units 20, 21, and 22. Again, everything that's east of Chesapeake would be reassigned to Bayview.
Chesapeake Boulevard.
Yes, so Chesapeake Boulevard.
Somebody out there thinking Chesapeake.
Just,
Nope.
yeah.
We're expanding.
I'm just saying.
Sorry. I have a hard time remembering all of the suffixes. I appreciate it. I will mention Chesapeake Boulevard. Oh, Leachester? Okay. I'm learning. So those would be the proposed boundary moves from Ocean Air. Now, that being said, we also need to look at Calcott. On the first slide, we showed utilization. Calcott had a current utilization of 74%. And when we're talking about a dense neighborhood like Mariners Watch, there's about 180 students in those homes. Calcott doesn't have enough room to be able to receive all of those students without reassigning some other parts to balance enrollment between the schools. So this current map shows the current boundaries of Calcott, and then the next map will be the proposed changes. So again, we'll just start over on the right-hand side, Planning Unit 17. Again, it shows it moving from Ocean Air to Calcott. And now what you see here is over on the very left-hand side, there is, that's Planning Unit 9, that aligns with Merrimack Landing. And so there's about 64 students in that community today. We propose reassigning Merrimack Landing to Ocean View, as well as homes along Granby Avenue, just north of Mason Creek there. That's that little triangle to the little point on top of Calcott, reassigning those neighborhoods to Bayview as well, or to Ocean View, I apologize. And so one of the caveats, though, too, as we propose these moves, is we also propose taking the pre-K classes off of Calcott and putting them at the Ocean Air ECC when that happens. So that would, again, alleviate some, take off some additional students from Calcott to allow them to receive more students from Ocean Air. So again, we'll the same thing we'll look at here with these next two slides. Again, so Planning Unit 9, this is Merrimack Landing. Again, you can see the streets in the neighborhood that make up this neighborhood. We would propose pushing these to Ocean View, and again, 64 students. And then when we look at the other neighborhood, Planning Unit 13, there's about 24 students in this block that we would propose moving to Ocean View.
And they're at Calcott now?
Yes, they're currently assigned to Calcott, the homes in there. So that would be a move for 24 students. So the next slide will show the proposed.
Can I just go back? Merrimack Landing Merrimack Landing
is currently a Calcott,
is currently a Calcott,
and we would propose moving them to Ocean View.
and that's 60,
What?
was that 64?
Yes,
So you're talking about taking 64 plus 24, so
88 students.
88 students at a Calcott and moving them to Ocean.
Yes.
I'm just concerned because we have so many walkers in that neighborhood that displacing some of those students.
And we're going to get to that on the next slide after this. Yeah.
Karen, would you go back? So, see this area right here? This is actually a waterway. So the kids have to be transported all the way around to get them. One of the reasons we have Andrew, because he helps us geographic challenges and proximities. Yeah, and we're trying to balance all three schools at 85%, and that's why.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, when you look at the map, I wasn't thinking about the water from there, yeah.
All right, this slide shows this, the proposed enrollment and demographics after these changes. So what you see here currently, you got the first two columns show the current and proposed enrollments. Then we show capacity, current and proposed utilizations. We show students with disabilities, that's those green bar charts. English language learners, that's the blue charts. And then SES is socioeconomic status. So that's a measure of I believe free and reduced lunch, and Patrick, I think, can talk more to that if needed. And then the tables at the bottom show the makeup of the student body, the current makeup and the proposed makeup by different ethnic or racial groups. And so overall, you see when we look at the proposed utilizations, we bring all three of the receiving schools much closer to that target of 86% utilization. We're sitting right between 85 to 87% in all three schools. So they are more full, but they still have room for students if needed. There is not a lot of movement when you look at students with disabilities. In fact, no school increases. Every school either remains the same as a percentage share of their student body or as a reduction. English language learners, you do see an increase at some of those schools as we, again, reassign some of Ocean Air's boundaries. And then you also see, with the socioeconomic status, we do see an increase in the student body percentage at each of those schools. And, they're moving much closer to that district average of 58%. When you look at the racial groups, we see white students as a whole at each of the receiving schools, their percentage share decreases closer to the district average. We see increases in the Hispanic students and increases in the black students at each school. Again, they're moving closer to the district average on those. And then as a recap, so in this area, Willoughby would close. Ocean Air would be repurposed as the new ECC, replacing Willoughby. And that means Planning Unit 17 would move to Calcott, Planning Units 18 and 19 would move to Ocean View, and Planning Units 20, 21, and 22 to Bayview. And then Calcott's boundary would be adjusted to balance enrollment and utilization. And that means, again, Planning Unit 17 would move from Ocean Air to Calcott, and then Planning Units 9 and 13 would move from Calcott to Ocean View, and then the pre-K classes would move off of Calcott to Ocean Air Willoughby ECC. So next we're going to look at the non-transportation zone. So this is about a 1 mile zone around each campus. And this first map, it may be a little hard to see, so I apologize. It's hard to translate this information, but there are different colored lines with some dots in them. And what those represent are the walking or the non-transportation zones for each school. So purple would be for Ocean View, green Ocean Air, red is Calcott, and then the blue would be Bayview. And so the table at the bottom right shows what percentage of our students in each of those attendance boundaries are in the non-transportation zone. So you see we have relatively high non-transportation zone enrollment. Bayview sitting at 85% of its student body in that non-transportation zone. Calcott, 78%. Ocean View is just under 50%, and Ocean Air is 100% non-transportation. So they're all within a walking radius of the school.
But how can Ocean Air, that's an ECC school?
It will,
These are current.
these are
This is
These are
current.
current.
Okay. never
Yes.
mind.
And so the next map will show the proposed non-transportation zones with the proposed moves. And so one thing you'll see is if you look at Planning Unit 9, which is Merrimack Landing, that already doesn't fall in a transportation zone for Ocean View or Calcott. So they are bus students either way. So we don't impact them, other than, reassigning the school. You do see when you look at Mariners Watch, most of that community, just a small portion, a couple of buildings in the very far upper corner, they are all within walking distance to Calcott. So we are not creating any new transportation needs, and they are still within a walking distance of their homes. And when you look at the Bayview boundary, again, a good majority of the areas, except for the areas most to the north, would still be in that non-transportation zone. And so as we increase enrollment at each school with reassigning students, Bayview's non-transportation zone enrollment would sit just under 78%. Calcott would be, about 92%, and Ocean View would be under 40%. So we are, there's no way around it. Some of those students are just in an area where they would have to be transported at the, with the closure of Ocean Air. So next we'll look at Norview. So on this map, Norview is shown in yellow, Tanner's Creek is in red, and Sherwood Forest is in green. And right now, again, Norview is our smallest school of those three schools in that area. And so they're sitting at 93%, but again, it's the smallest school in terms of capacity and enrollment. Sherwood Forest and Tanner's Creek, 71% and 60% utilized, in the same vein. And so that means, Tanner's Creek has a lot of room to accommodate additional enrollment, and Sherwood Forest also has room to accommodate, a little bit under 200 students before it hit max capacity. The school site itself is not. It's just south of there.
Further south. Yeah.
I was trying, the map here is designed to focus on the Norview boundary itself.
If I could remind the board that Norview Elementary School also has 15 mobiles.
Mobiles.
So the next slide will show the proposed reassignment of Norview. So in our plan, planning units 129, 132, 128, 129, 132, and 219 would be reassigned from Norview to Tanner's Creek, and planning units 130 and 131 would be reassigned to Sherwood Forest. And again, when you look at 129 and 130, there is a creek that runs through and separates those communities, so that was kind of a natural divide as when we were looking at this. And so we'll, again, on the next slide, we'll zoom in and show each of these areas. So this is planning units 128, 129, 132, and 219, and they would be proposed to move to Tanner's Creek. And there's approximately 201 students in there today that are attending Norview from those planning blocks. So we would have to, we're reassigning them to a school across the interstate. That planning unit 133 is already Tanner's Creek, so it's already on that side of the interstate. So we're not creating any, we're not doing anything different. We're just expanding the boundary. And then when we look at the next slide, this is planning units 130 and 131. Again, these two planning units only constitute about 85 students. And so these are single-family homes. They're, is that 5 Points? Is that what that's called? Yes. Yeah, right there on the kind of the west side of 5 Points. So 85 students would be reassigned from Norview to Sherwood Forest with this plan. So the recap is Norview Elementary closes. Planning Unit 128, 129, 132, and 219 move to Tanners Creek. And Planning Units 130 and 131 are moved to Sherwood Forest. And then on the next slide, again, this shows the proposed, the current enrollment, proposed enrollment, utilizations, students with disabilities, and all the other demographics that we are looking at, as well as the racial groups. And so you can see in our option here, after Norview closes and students are reassigned, Sherwood Forest and Tanners Creek, again, they're both moving closer to that 86% target. Sherwood Forest is 87%, Tanners Creek 83. Again, Tanners Creek is our biggest of those schools, so they have a little bit more room, a little bit harder to achieve that 86%. Students with disabilities, again, you don't see any increases at the schools. You actually see decreases based on the share of the student body. You also see that trend with English language learners. We see a decrease in the total population, or in the percentage share. And then as we look at the socioeconomic status, you see a small uptick at Tanners Creek as students are reassigned from Norview to Tanners Creek, but we see the rate does not change at Sherwood Forest. And then when you look at the ethnic or the racial groups at the bottom, we see decreases in the white student population, the Hispanic student population, and in the other percentage population. And so we do see increases at both schools in the black student population with the reassignment of Norview. And then the next slides will show, again, the non-transportation zones. So quickly, I just wanted to point out on this map, I do show Willard in a non-transportation zone because, again, that's kind of our next school in that quadrant. I only show it here to illustrate that even if we were to consider adding, Willard as a receiving school for these students, they would not be able to. They would not be in that non-transportation zone, so they can't be accommodated. And what you'll see in a second on the next slide will make more sense. But again, Norview shown in blue, Willard is in purple, Sherwood Forest red, Tanners Creek is in green. And overall, we have about 68% of our students between Norview, Sherwood Forest, and Tanners Creek are in the non-transportation zone. And with the closure of Norview and the reassignment of those boundaries, next slide, you can see that there's been no change to those non-transportation zones. So Sherwood Forest and Tanners Creek, just based on where those schools are and the ways to get to those schools, there isn't a way that those students would be in a non-transportation zone. So with the closure of Norview, all of these students would end up being transported to their receiving schools. And so again, it was about 68% of our students were in non-transportation zone. With Norview, once it's gone, we're sitting at less than half of our students are in the non-transportation zone in those boundaries. And so if we go to the next slide, this slide is just meant for information purposes for the board.
We put a bigger printout in the online. Yeah.
This is not meant to dive in now, but this, with the printout, board members can have this and have some meaningful information. This simply shows how students are currently, where they live versus where they attend. And our two closing schools, Norview and Ocean Air, are highlighted in yellow there. So the way this reads is the rows going down, those are our attendance boundaries. And then the columns going across are the schools they are attending. So if you look in that very first row, Bayview, there are 428 kids who live in Bayview and attend Bayview, but overall there's 482 students who live in that boundary. So that means that there's another 54 students that live in the Bayview boundary but are going elsewhere. Yeah. And so this is information that we use as the committee as we're looking at this to understand where kids are going and try to help us make decisions. I just wanted you guys to be able to have this if it's useful as you're reviewing the information.
Yeah. Yes, we did.
So,
Yeah.
I can provide a much larger printout for you as well.
So just go over it one more time.
Sure.
So there are 428 kids that,
Enrolled at,
Live in Bayview and attend it.
okay, and then all the way on the other side, you said 482.
82 K through 5 students who live in Bayview, which means that there's 54 students that live there that aren't attending Bayview. Yep.
which
So-
could include private or homeschool as well.
These are our
No,
schools.
these are just.
these are just
NPS
our
schools.
This would be if they're at one of our, like if they're at ADL or an out-of-district transfer, that's where they would fall.
Okay.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have private school or charter school information if they're not NPS students.
Yeah, we don't have charter, but yeah, we,
You'll see ADL.
yes,
You'll see big numbers there.
okay.
Like Granby, I believe, just as students don't go to Granby, they go to another school. That's represented straight across the schools they go to.
Okay, yeah, and I wanted to make that clarification because there was a point in time when we had that information, while we didn't know where they went, they weren't in our schools. So we have, there are also students that live in in the Bayview neighborhood that do not attend Norfolk
Yes,
Public
well,
Schools.
yes, and
And that was
absolutely.
also valuable information to kind of understand.
Yeah, when I'm working with these types of processes, I'm only going to work with the district student data, so active students. I won't, typically charter schools, private schools won't give me that information, so,
Yeah,
obviously.
no, I mean, and of course, but you could also say, well, there are students that live here, but they do not attend our schools. And, because I do want to point out, since this is in here, if you look at the demographic breakdown, it's not like our city's demographic breakdown. So those who utilize our school system looks very different from our city makeup. So we have so I just find that interesting. So, anyway, I think it'd be interesting to have that information on this at some point. But for this purpose, I think it's fine, yeah.
Are there any other questions here?
Are we opening up to questions?
Oh, well, we were just discussing, I wanted to make sure.
Okay, yeah.
So next, we'll just touch on the community meetings. So on January 28th, 2026, 2 community meetings were held where we showed these proposed boundaries to the public. So the first meeting was at 3:30 at Norview High School, and then we had a meeting at 6:30 at Northside Middle School. Along with those community meetings, we gave people the option to fill out written surveys and also an online survey to provide feedback. We found that about 57% of the respondents were parents, another 29% were NPS staff. So we had quite a few teachers and other school site personnel there. 55% of the respondents found the information needed or for understanding the redistricting plan. So, and then 77 said they were able to understand the neighborhood assignments.
Honest responses did you get?
It's I think about 50 to 60 overall. And so, the general thoughts and feedback that we heard were that there was especially a desire to understand the staffing impacts and the future teacher placements. That was a big concern, especially from the closing schools.
Can I jump in real quick? And I put it in the bulletin, I just want to say that Dr. Agnew Scott and her team have been working very closely with the principals, and as far as teaching staff, I think right now all but 2 are placed and happily placed with where they wanted to be. So we're in a really good spot right now with that. We're now moving on to clerical and custodial and ancillary positions, but the teaching staff, we're ahead of where we thought we would be at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. There was also inquiries on inter-district transfers to avoid changing schools. There was a desire for clear and continued outreach to parents, especially, with multilingual communications, especially for the impact at schools. There was concerns around the impact to SPED and IEP students. And then there was concerns just, for general student well-being, social, emotional well-being. That's pretty par for the course in these types of projects. So, but, these were the concerns we heard and, things that, we want to stay on top of as we help families transition.
I'll interject one more time. And as mentioned at the 6:30 PM meeting when this came up, a correspondence was sent to all stakeholders in English and Spanish with a link to our website. And then our website also does auto translations in other languages too. So we're on that.
Then we'll go to the next steps. The next steps, public hearing following the March 4th board work session. We're hoping for a board vote during the March 18th board business meeting. And then after that, Wolpert and MPS administration, we're preparing the year 2 and year 3 plans. And we hope to bring those back to the board later this year for approval. But we wanted to get this first one out of the way so we can move forward with the 26-27 school year. And so with that, then we can open it up for questions.
I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm going to ask my question first, if I may. Can we go back to Norview? Several up there, I'm not sure which, as it relates to transportation.
About-
Referencing the northern ones
Yeah,
closest to.
about,
The neighborhoods that are closer to Tanner's Creek, those kids that are going to Tanner's Creek, I have a question around those kids.
one more slide.
More slide.
Okay, so I'm just talking historically. Correct me if I'm wrong. Students at Norview Middle, if they live at east of Chesapeake Boulevard, so they live east, say they live in,
This is Chesapeake.
right, that's Chesapeake Boulevard. So those kids, they go to Norview Middle, travel through Wellington Oaks, and travel over the catwalk to go to St. Andrews, Meadowbrook, and those places.
I believe so.
Okay. So my question is, for the elementary kid students, is that the same thing for them as well? Or are they going to be transported around Johnston
Yeah.
Road and,
So you see these little green dots and then dark one. So that's the walkers to Tanner's Creek.
Well, the blue dots on this map would have been the walkers to Norview. And so as,
Now they'll be bused.
yeah, they will become bus riders.
They'll become bus riders.
okay, so
Yes.
those kids will become bus riders?
Yes.
Okay, because my concern was that those kids would have to walk across.
No.
Oh,
the
no.
interstate.
No.
Okay.
Ms. Fussel's in the
Yeah.
planning team.
Okay.
And we.
Okay, because I knew the middle school kids, because that's always been a big issue.
Yeah.
But those kids will be transported, okay.
Typically in our processes, when you have an interstate as a boundary like that, we're always going to recommend a transportation, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to hear, okay. Yeah. Anyone else have any questions? Colonel Paulson, then Ms. Basine.
The letter that came from the military about transportation in the future, it may not be this cycle, but the future, about the bus route to their care center off of Fourth View. Is that part of this, or is that going to be in the next cycle?
That would likely be in the next cycle because it's that, and that's Sewell's Point, and there's not going to be a lot of shifting up in the Sewell's Point area. But they've been in contact with our transportation. They've been in contact already to talk about what possibilities are for the future of that.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, before I go, I just wanted, if anyone else has any comments or questions? Because I have a few, and I don't want to.
Yeah, we're going, okay, we're going on 5:30. Go ahead. On this modern time.
Okay, thank you for this presentation. So I'm trying to, and this is like questions for you, but also conversation for us to have as a board and as a team. Obviously, I was concerned about this school closure and consolidation plan, which is why I voted against it in October. And some of my concern is continuing to play out. So we closed 2 schools, but there are 8 buildings impacted. And we have 6 schools that are impacted, and we are, for all intents and purposes, in March. And we have 3,300 students that are being impacted, which is a huge amount. We're not talking about a couple of hundred here, a couple hundred there. We're talking about 3,300 students. And this redistricting process, while I appreciate all the work and everything that's gone into it, what it's really highlighting is why this should have happened first, because now we have a better scope of how many students are actually impacted, and that would then lead to better communication plans, better just better school planning going forward, so that I feel like we should have this whole year to actually plan and move students. The one thing that I have not heard anything about is the academic planning. And I know we're talking about moving resources from one school to another, but we're not talking about academics. How is this, and I say that because only one of those schools is on track right now. And I say this only to, not because of anything negative about the school itself, but what are we going to do to support it? And some of those schools are also needs intensive supports around for students with disabilities. And so I'm very concerned about our planning and the crunch time that we have here to plan to support for the academic improvement for our students. Because that's 3,300 students. 3,300 students that may not, while they might have the teachers in place following them, are they going to really truly have the academic supports to be successful off the bat? And how we monitor that, how we evaluate these transition plans with real metrics, not just a checklist of, is this equitable, is it not equitable? It's how do we know that it is equitable? And that's where my concern really lies, where I am not comfortable with what I have seen thus far in us taking action on it. And I hope the community is also aware of what is really happening here, because this is honestly, it doesn't sit well with me. Because this is a lot of students, and it's a lot of families. It's a lot of changing neighborhoods. And we've talked about this a lot, that we were kind of set up for failure with this crunch time and push to do this. But I need to hear more about what we are doing to provide academic supports. I need to hear more about the programming, what we are doing to support our educators. How are we supporting, we don't want to maintain what we're doing. We want to provide enhanced opportunities. So I'm not getting that message across in any of these discussions. And that's something that I feel like I need to hear more about going forward. So I do want to stress that again here. And I don't know if there's additional information that you all have around the academic planning for these schools. If there is information, I think the board should see how we're going to monitor and evaluate those transitions. And so I just want to say that. And I am also very concerned about the communication plan. And I appreciate the input, the feedback that was taken at the 6:30 meeting, which honestly was the only meeting that had attendance really there, which was another concern. So again, 3,300 students, and we had, few respondents few community members at the meeting. So I'd like to know more about what has been done since those community meetings took place to today, and what kind of outreach, what kind of communication has taken place with not just our families, but with our educators as well. So if you could speak to a little more about that, that would the,
I can speak to some of that, and then if Dr. Jones wants to interject as well. So at each of our schools, they have transition committees as well. So each of the schools are meeting with their teams internally to talk about the transition planning, and then they're prepared once a vote takes place to start rolling out their plans and inviting their community in and having larger conversations with the stakeholders, both the accepting schools and the schools that are sending. Are communicating already. The principal's already talking about spring activities and about open houses and about having students visit during different times, doing bus rides for students who aren't bus riders currently to acclimate them to a bus, which is also why we asked for additional drivers in this year's budget. The concern about getting ahead of the board vote is if we do the work and we invite the community in and we have all this planning going on and then the board does not vote for it, then we've added a lot of confusion to our community. So we're planned and ready, but we can't really jump until the board vote. Because if for some reason the board feels like, no, it's too rushed, we can't do this, we don't feel good about it, and we've already done all this work, then that's not fair to our community. So we next year, we will have a higher rate of fully certified teachers at each of the receiving schools. We will have, like I said, the transition planning's already going into place. We are going to allow students, especially in the upper grades, to apply for out-of-district transfers. Like if a fourth grader at Calcott's getting moved to a new school and they want to stay there through fifth grade, we get it. That's an important time for them to stay in their community. Human Resources has worked very closely with the teachers on where their requests of what schools they'd like to go to, even what grade level, even teams by grade level to stay together. This work is being done. The difficult part is the timeline that we were put on by the delay of this vote, right? The vote didn't happen until fall.
October.
Right, so, and we talked about that.
We were pressured into.
Right, absolutely,
Yes,
and we
right.
talked about that at that time, and I, a couple board members mentioned, the really request for having a full year of planning is important, which is why we also tried to limit the amount of schools on the front end. Because if I recall correctly, there was also discussion of saying, let's do all schools now, which would have really changed everything.
Not by me.
So we are focusing on these two schools, which do have an effect now on 7 schools. Because the 2 schools that are the programs, the buildings that are closing, move the students elsewhere, which changes everything in that school population.
Absolutely.
So, but know that the principals have been hard at work at this. They've been working with their teachers. So this is in place, and academics will change solely because of the amount of certified teachers that we have in classrooms next year. As said, some based off attrition, some based off of long-term subs we have in place right now. Certified teachers will be taking some of those positions. So we are prepared. And our principals are preparing for this, and we're ready to invite the community in and to have these conversations with the community. We've got presentations ready for each principal specifically for their school site, so they can have their PTA meetings, they can invite their parents in, their stakeholders in, and just focus on their area as well. So that is all taking place.
And then with our,
If I could add one thing, the committee invited. The executive director attended. Questions about moving? All of those were answered by Dr. Agnew Scott after the fact, but broad plan. The executive directors.
okay, and can you speak specifically around our students and families, students with disabilities as well as our English language learners?
Sure. So Dr. Walter's been included in the meetings, and that, those really, there are federal requirements we have to follow there as well. So the number of students versus the number of teachers. Every year, we look at our staffing for special education, for our paraprofessionals, for our teacher numbers, and they change every year. So supports will follow the students as needed. And as mentioned during the budget presentation, we're also maintaining positions and not deleting them off the books from the consolidation so that we have extra supports to be able to put into place at schools with higher needs, where we see the data part. We're also internally looking at specific data pieces. So we're looking at if, with these data sets, how would have scores been at the schools with last year's data, so that we can understand that piece of the puzzle as well. All this is being done to prepare for this. We're not just waiting for a vote, then saying, okay, let's move forward. We meet, and again, this is why I put it in the bulletin, the weekly bulletin. We meet as a whole committee centrally every other week, and the other committees are meeting every week, and the principals are in almost constant communication.
Right, and I appreciate those updates in the bulletin about that these meetings are taking place, but exactly what they're taking place, what they're looking at, how they're evaluating things, like what you just described, is not necessarily, shared. Because I personally want to hear about, like you're saying, looking at last year's data, looking at how the integration of school communities, what that might look like so that we're prepared for the needs of our students academically, social and emotionally, all of that, so that we're prepared for that.
And I appreciate that, but remember also, the board gave us directives on what to do. So administratively, it's our responsibility to do that, and we're doing it.
Yeah.
I think it would spend all the board's time if we gave you constant updates of all the administration.
And I'm not asking for that, yeah.
You have to have trust in us, and I know we had that trust discussion early on. You have to have trust. We're putting this together well in the time frame that we had. And we even worked closely with Wilpert to make sure that we could get this data together to be able to be where we are right now on the front end schools with, the time frame that they had.
Right, and I think you're saying the operative phrase here is the time frame that we have.
Right.
And as you know, it has nothing to do with trust in you and your team. It is really the time that we have, where can we really do this well? And that's where my concern ultimately lies, is the time frame that we have.
And we are confident with the work that we have in right now that we can do this well. The first phase one, we feel well planned out for it. We feel confident in the leadership in place in the buildings and the support that we're giving them, that this will be a good transition. I will be the first to admit, though, this is one, if not one of the most difficult things as a division that we can do. We are, like you said, 3,000 students. We're upsetting the apple cart, whether they're going to have more students in their school than they're used to, or they have to go to a new school. It's a change for them, and it's a difficult change for them. But if we don't follow through with this long term, it's going to be much worse for their educational futures.
Martin?
I'd like to, so a couple things.
The receiving schools have, the great majority of them have newer HVACs, newer windows, newer roofs. As far as playgrounds go, we already have it on the books to move some playgrounds. So especially at Ocean Air, we're going to move some of Willoughby's pre-K stuff over there to make sure all the accommodations they have are there, the newest and the best on site.
Thank you, Pat. Bus riders to walkers, and probably some walkers to bus riders. I just want to make sure that we're working with the city to ensure that the signals, we have, everything is, that 1 mile is a very safe mile for our students.
reason I asked them to join us is we'll continue to do triple checker. So you're not going to see it until I'm absolutely sure. Kristen and Patrick are the ones.
I'd also like to make the request that, you know, we have sessions where children learn how to walk to the school. Incorporate the bikers as well. That'd be above and beyond what, I know that I don't want to say above and beyond so much, but there's been a really big push for bicycle safety around the schools, and I think this is a good opportunity.
Yeah, and recall, I think from even conversations last year, we're putting in the Title IV grant this year, the bike safety back, Safe Routes to School back into the budget to have that in place, and they'll work closely with this as well.
Are there any other
Good
questions
points.
around?
Real quick, what is the domino effect on our middle school transition? Is there any
So
immediate?
we're a little early for that. So as you guys know, this is year one. And so we just presented that. In year two, you saw there'll be 5 transitions, but we're also going to add Chesterfield in when we come back to speak to you all, which is year 3. And then after we get all that done, then we're going to start talking about how we're going to link those to middle and high schools.
Okay.
And so Andrew's doing some behind-the-scenes work with middle and high schools, but I don't want us getting
Yeah, please
convoluted with
don't.
that. So while we're working on what we need to communicate to you all, Andrew is making sure that behind the scenes, it'll flow smoothly with the secondary. But again, I don't want to get in front of that. We got a board vote, and we got a whole bunch of other stuff to do before that. But it's Andrew's responsibility to sync all that kind of simultaneously, but we're nowhere near ready to communicate that. And if I could remind this board, there is no data that I can find that speaks to we've redistricted high schools since we added the 5th high school. I'm assuming everybody knows Lake Taylor High School was the 5th high school, and that was added in 1969.
Yeah.
So
And
there's
the-
going to be an interesting conversation or two about redistricting secondary schools. But again, we need to get through the elementaries first, as we've defined, and then all that will be sequenced as the board requests it. But we do anticipate having year 2, year 3 to you.
This late this spring or early fall, so that we're ahead of that one as well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, appreciate it.
Oh, let's get our motion in first. May I have a motion to go into executive closed session?
I move that we go into executive closed session.
Okay, first and seconded. Ms. Tanner, read the motion, please.
Yes. Move that the members of the School Board of the City of Norfolk go into a closed meeting for purposes which are set out in subsection A of Section 2.2-3711 of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as amended for discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of the school board pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A1 of the Act. The subjects covered by this exemption are the discussion of persons and personnel actions included on today's personnel docket, discussion or consideration of disciplinary and any other matters concerning students in Norfolk Public Schools that will involve the disclosure of information contained in the scholastic record pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A2 of the Act. The subject covered by this exemption is a discussion of students and disciplinary actions on today's student support docket, in consultation with legal counsel regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by counsel pursuant to subsection 2.2-3711A8 of the Act. The subjects covered by this exemption are consultation in connection with the matters set above in subsections A through B of this motion. Basine?
Aye.
Calvagero?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Paulson?
Aye.
Slaughter,
Aye.
Thomas, and Buffalo.
Aye. Could take about 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Norfolk School Board meeting for Wednesday, February 18th. A quorum is present to conduct the business of the school board. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine,
Here.
DeCalagero,
Here.
Martin,
Present.
Olson,
Present.
Slaughter,
Present.
Thomas,
Here.
Buffalo.
Here, we're going to move on to 4.03, Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Ash, please do the honors.
At this time, may everyone please silence their cell phones and pagers for the remainder of the meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move down to 4.04, adoption of the business agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the business agenda?
I move that we adopt the business agenda.
I second. Thank you, DeCalagero and Ms. Slaughter. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine,
Aye.
DeCalagero,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Slaughter,
Aye.
Thomas, Buffalo.
Aye. We're going to move down to 4.05, the school board clerk's report. Ms. Tanner, it's on you.
Yes, Madam Chair, we will begin the clerk's report with recognizing February as Black History Month, and we will showcase a special video that spotlights the choral students in 7th and 8th grade at the Academy of International Studies at Rosemont under the direction of Mr. LaTron Baker Pierce. The video will feature clips from 2 songs they were rehearsing for their upcoming Black History Month concert. Channel 47, please play the video.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Lopez, and I am the Senior Coordinator of History and Social Science for Norfolk Public Schools. During Black History Month, we honor the legacy, resilience, and contributions of Black Americans whose stories continue to shape our nation and our classrooms. Tonight, we are proud to spotlight the Academy of International Studies at Rosemont and Mr. Baker Pierce, chorus teacher, along with his 7th and 8th grade students, who will perform 2 selections from their upcoming Black History Month concert.
The first piece that we sang with my 7th grade class was called A City Called Heaven, and that's a traditional spiritual. And the second,
it is a song that shows like how far we've come through history. And basically they're saying that everyone, every color, every race, every gender, every ethnicity is human and they're all part of the world.
and the second song was Lift Up Your Voice and Sing with the 8th graders.
They were going through like really hard times in the 1960s. How even then they could have lifted their voice, as said in the song, and keep pushing on to get what they wanted, which was equal rights. Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has brought us.
And that part, it like resonates with me because, like I said before, it just shows how much we've like moved from in our improvement and like what we've gone through in the past.
Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
I think Black History Month is very important, not only because of my personal identity, but I think that the struggles and the stories of the diaspora of Black Americans is something that most Americans, all Americans, can identify with. And Black history isn't just a small part of of history. It's American history.
Thank you, Jennifer Lopez, Senior Coordinator of History and Social Science, for securing this opportunity to highlight our students' talents. Let's give them a round of applause. Next, the month of February is also our opportunity to celebrate our Norfolk School Board members for their commitment to serve as board members and their many contributions to ensuring success in Norfolk Public Schools. Our board members faithfully attend professional development opportunities to learn and lead Norfolk Public Schools as the cornerstone of a proudly diverse community. And to show appreciation for their diligent work, we will present each board member a special masterpiece of artwork from our talented students throughout Norfolk Public Schools. So at this time, I'd like to ask the school board members to come to the backdrop and stand, please. In preparation of a presentation of special artwork from some of our students who are here today. And the ones that are not here, our student reps are going to help present those pieces of artwork to you as well. Okay, well, the first piece of artwork, we would like to ask the school board chair, Ms. Buffalo, to come forward. Naomi Penn is here today. She's going to present to you her artwork and tell you how she was inspired. Let's give her a hand.
I wanted to draw things like
I appreciate the artistic side, because if this was me, it'd be stick people, so thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And next, Vice Chair DeCalagero. Your artwork was created by Anaya Edwards, a fifth grader at Ingleside Elementary School, and her teacher, Christopher Leacoat, is here to present this piece of artwork to you. Let's give him a hand.
Not here today, but grader, we practiced still lifes, and this was one that she presented. Very talented student.
It's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next, Athena is going to represent to Ms. Basine. Your artwork was created by Reese Newsome, a first grader at Larry Moore Elementary School, and the theme is printmaking. Yeah, you can do that. You can show the artwork.
myself.
You made it yourself. Tell me about it.
Oh,
What do you see?
It's abstract and it's a metaphor for like modern society in a sense.
Okay.
Right? Do you see the visions?
Great interpretation. Thank you.
And thank you so much to Reese Newsome. This is probably my, I think Ms. Slaughter asked me, did you know that we were getting to do this? And I said, yeah, I have several of these, and this is one of the most exciting things that I love about School Board Appreciation Month. So thank you to Reese, and I love it. So.
Awesome. And this next person, for Dr. Martin, your artwork was created by Olivia Zawatsky, who is here today. She's a second grader at Lake Taylor School. And her artwork theme is cool jellyfish.
Did you want to say it again? Is there anything else you want to say?
Say it again. It just what?
It just popped in my head, and then I just. All these colors are so beautiful, I think, and
I agree with you.
That's beautiful. Next, we have Colonel Paulson. Your artwork was created by Nicholas English, a ninth grader at Norview High School, and the theme is Beauty of the Deep. And Mariana is going to present it to you.
The artist isn't here?
No, the artist is not here.
Let's see what. Well, thank you. This will go with the one I got last year. It was a picture of a squid it was called Sky Deep or something. The artist was from Booker T. And the colors are different than the other, but there's a diver here, a jellyfish. Looks like another squid over here, but it's aquatic, and I like water. So, thank you.
Awesome. Ms. Slaughter, your artwork was created by Lila Goldman, an eighth grader at Azalea Gardens Middle School, and the theme is Willow Tree. And she's not here.
Is that a swing? Oh my God, it reminds me of my childhood.
Really?
Yes, we had our neighbors had a tree, I don't know if it's a willow tree, but they had a swing, and they knew if I wasn't at home reading, this is where I was. It's so beautiful. It's Lila. Thank you so much, Lila. This is absolutely beautiful.
Awesome. And Ms. Thomas, your artwork was created by Commandandre Nixon, an 11th grader at Norview High School, and the theme is Shapes.
Thank you so much. I'm adding this to my collection, my second picture. Thank you.
Awesome. So you all come together so we can get one nice photo with your artwork. Oh, take the stickies off the front. There you go. Awesome. Oh, you still stay there. You still stay there. Let's give our talented students a big round of applause. And we'd like to thank Dr. Georgiana Filio and the art department for securing these pieces of art for us. Now we will continue the recognitions, so please remain standing for one more acknowledgement. The Virginia School Board Association recognizes February as School Board Appreciation Month with the theme, From Strong Roots Come Endless Possibilities. So on behalf of VSBA, we present to you certificates of recognition for your diligent service to the Norfolk School Board, and our student reps will present your certificates and a special gift from yours truly. It's the blue or green bag. Just a little special token of my appreciation for you all. So first, we have Chairwoman DeCalagero. Chairman Buffalo, sorry, I skipped my line. Chairwoman Buffalo, followed by Chairwoman DeCalagero. So you can go ahead and take her gift and her gift. Okay, you can stay there, Athena. She's going to come back. The next person is Ms. Basine. And then Ms. Martin. And next, Colonel Polson. Jody Slaughter. And Alfreda Thomas. On behalf of VSBA and myself, congratulations and thank you for being such an awesome board to work with. Congratulations. Sarah does have a big picture. And you all will stay there because we want to present certificates to our 2 school board representatives for their service to attending 2 meetings a month and sharing their input and commitment to serving in this important role. So at this time, Chairwoman Buffalo will present your gifts and your certificates along with Vice Chair DeCalagero. And it's the white envelopes too.
Okay, on behalf of the school board, Ms. Ash and Ms. Chandler Wynn, we appreciate you all bringing student voice to the school board. We know how important that is, right, everyone?
Yes.
Student voice is very important. And so thank you for representing Norfolk Public Schools well. And we, on behalf of the school board.
And their certificates are on the podium. They know how to pose. Let's give our student reps on the school board another round of applause. Okay. Again, I truly appreciate the opportunity to serve you as clerk of the school board, and thank you for your continued service to Norfolk schools. Are y'all going to get another group shot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can't get enough, and you have to share the microphone tonight. So, thank you, school board, for being here. Dr. Pohl, we want to ask that you come up and join us as well at the step and repeat. This week is Virginia School Board Association School Board Clerk Appreciation Week, and the school board would like to take a few moments to acknowledge the dedication of our school board clerk, Ms. Karen Tanner. Ms. Tanner, would you please come forward? During the third week of February, the Virginia School Board Association designates School Board's Clerk Appreciation Week to recognize and acknowledge the work and assistance that school board clerks provide to school board members, superintendents, and the school community at large. School board clerks are responsible for keeping records of meetings and documenting official proceedings of a school board, preparing and posting meeting agendas, organizing meeting schedules, and providing administrative support, among other duties. Ms. Tanner, as school board clerk, your work requires exceptional professionalism, discretion, and unwavering attention to detail. While much of what you do happens behind the scenes, your impact is felt in every aspect of our school division operations. Thank you for navigating and evolving expectations and daily demands of a fast-paced educational environment. Your commitment is truly inspiring. Again, thank you, Ms. Karen Tanner, your unwavering steadfastness to Norfolk Public Schools. Thank you. We also want to share with you a resolution from the School Board Association, and we all signed it, so.
Oh, wow.
Yes, so.
Thank y'all for signing.
Yeah. We're going to get a picture.
Oh, okay.
You can write it.
Sorry.
All right, we're going to move on to 4.06, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Pohl.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Buffalo, Vice Chair DeCalagero, and members of the board. As my time serving as interim superintendent comes to a close, I want to take a few moments to reflect and to express my sincere gratitude. First and foremost, thank you to this board for your trust and confidence in my leadership during this transition for Norfolk Public Schools. Serving in this role has been both an honor and a profound responsibility, and one that I've approached with humility, focus, and deep commitment for our students and our community. As many are aware, Norfolk Public Schools holds a special place in my heart. I began my career in this division as a mathematics teacher at Lake Taylor High School, and to have the opportunity to return years later to serve as the Chief Academic Officer and as the interim superintendent has been deeply meaningful to me both professionally and personally. This division helped shape me as an educator and now as a leader, and I will always be grateful for that foundation. I also want to thank our parents, students, and community partners. Your engagement, advocacy, and belief in our schools are essential to our progress. Public education succeeds when it's embraced as a shared responsibility, and Norfolk is fortunate to have a community that remains invested in the success of its children. Last, but certainly not least, I want to recognize and thank our staff at every single level of this organization. To our teachers, principals, assistant principals, support staff, operations teams, bus drivers, nutrition workers, central office leaders, and every employee who serves this division, whether full-time or part-time, I sincerely thank you. Your professionalism, resilience, and unwavering dedication to our students have been evident every single day. The work has not slowed, and the expectations have not diminished. Yet you have continued to lead with integrity and purpose, and our students are better because of you. Over the past 8 months, we've continued to demonstrate what is possible when we work together in service to our students. As a community, we collaborated to develop a thoughtful school consolidation plan designed to strengthen academic programming and ensure long-term sustainability. We worked together to build and present a student-focused budget aligned to instructional priorities and operational stability. And we celebrated a historic milestone as we broke ground on the new Morey High School, a powerful symbol of investment in our students and in the future of our city. These accomplishments were not the work of any one individual. They were the result of shared leadership, thoughtful dialogue, and a collective commitment to doing what is best for our students. I'm also excited to return to my role as Chief Academic Officer. Instruction and student achievement remain the core of why we exist, and I look forward to continuing that work with my renewed focus and energy. Finally, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Jeff Rose as our next superintendent of Norfolk Public Schools. Dr. Rose brings extensive experience, steady leadership, and a clear commitment to educational excellence. I'm looking forward to learning from him and supporting his leadership as we continue the work of ensuring that every student in Norfolk Public Schools receives a high-quality education and is prepared for lifelong success. Serving as interim superintendent has been one of the greatest privileges of my career. Thank you again for your trust, your partnership, and most importantly, your shared commitment to students across Norfolk. Now, Channel 47, please roll the footage highlighting our students with this month's superintendent report. Thank you.
Second graders from Little Creek Elementary traveled to Camp Young, where they got a lesson on natural habitats from educators at Nauticus. They asked the students questions about the environment at the camp and the animals they thought might live there. These excited second graders then got to look for different types of wildlife that regularly inhabit the camp.
The kids were fantastic. They love being outside. We were looking for deer. We were looking for woodpeckers. We checked underneath a rotten log and found a little centipede under there. They had a great time. It's important for kids to know where they live and know what animals and plants live here, what is native, and what is good about them. Kids need to know about their natural environment.
Specially chosen students from Norfolk Technical Center's automotive program are learning more about the industry thanks to a unique partnership with the City of Norfolk's Fleet Management. These students are training at the city's garage to learn how to work on a wide variety of vehicles from experts who work there every day.
When we started this program, we thought it was going to be more of like a mentorship, just kind of show them what we do here, and it's turned into more, they want hands-on. I mean, now they drive straight in, they work on the vehicles, they help our technicians, and it's kind of going back and forth. I like helping the next generation. I like seeing them learn something that was out of their comfort zone.
It's not just veteran technicians who show the students new things. With 2 former NTC graduates having already been hired to work here, they're also enthusiastic about sharing their knowledge with students currently in the program.
You see lock release, push up on lock release, and then now push up on activate. Or switch it to lower first. To low, yeah. Feels like I was just in that position. I was just there like last year. So it kind of feels a little weird. It was a cool experience. I was really grateful when they brought me the idea of coming here and working on the fleet, the entire fleet. So that was a really cool experience, and going through all the shops was also awesome. So I really loved it when I came here, so I decided I wanted to work here.
I think he's really smart. I mean, I follow him on social media, and he's all about cars, so he kind of inspired me to come here too. It's a great opportunity to learn more about different types of vehicles, and it's just a lot of opportunities here. You learn something every day.
I would just say getting the work experience in, because instead of staying in a classroom or having a teacher teach you how to do the things and watch over your shoulder sort of, you instead have the actual workplace experience. You get to come here and it's like you're actually working an actual job. So instead of it being just a classroom, you get hands-on work experience instead.
I'm a hands-on learner. I'm not really much of a kid who sit and just get lectured all day. I just can't do it. I mean, it's a privilege to be here. Honestly, I've been wanting to come here for since my sophomore year. It's fun. It's a good place to be, and you really do learn a lot here.
For complete video stories and more division-wide information about Norfolk Public Schools, visit the NPS website and check out our YouTube channel, Facebook page, Instagram, and NPS newsletter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Pohl. We're going to move on to 4.07, citizen comments. Ms. Tanner.
Madam Chair, for today's citizens' comments, we have 6 speakers. Today's speakers signed up for public comments before the start of today's business meeting. If you would like to provide public comment, you're required to state the agenda item or items or topic you're addressing prior to providing your public comments at this meeting. When your name is called, please come forward to the speaker's podium. State your name and whether you have a child in Norfolk Public Schools or if you're employed by the district. One person is to speak at a time. If you are representing a group, state the group's name. You may ask your group members to stand in place to be recognized. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes. A timer is set with an alarm that will signify the end of your speaking time. State your position and give facts. Avoid saying anything that identifies students or personnel information about individual employees. Personnel, disciplinary, and confidential matters may be addressed to the school board directly via email at schoolboard@npsk12.com. Comments should be addressed to the board and not addressed to an individual member. School board members do not respond to public comments at the time they are given. Any written statements or supporting materials should be given to the clerk. Chairman Buffalo, our first speaker for today is Shakara Lawrence, followed by Karen Luca Burstein.
Good evening, Chair, school board members, superintendent, and members of the Norfolk community. My name is Shakara Lawrence. I reside at 1378 East Tanners Creek Drive, and am speaking on behalf of the Special Education Advisory Committee. We appreciate the opportunity to share our perspective as you navigate these important decisions regarding potential school closures. As this process continues, we respectfully urge the district to ensure that all engagement efforts are accessible, inclusive, and responsive to the communities most affected, particularly families of students with disabilities. Many of the schools under consideration serve high numbers of students with disabilities, economically disadvantaged families, multilingual households, and families who already face barriers to participation. For these communities, traditional centralized meetings alone may limit who is able to engage. To support authentic community input, we recommend holding school-based meetings at campuses proposed for closure. Bringing conversations directly into school communities reduces transportation barriers, increases participation, and creates a more welcoming and familiar environment for families. We also strongly encourage the district to offer virtual interaction options, such as live streams with live commenting, virtual town halls, or recorded sessions with feedback opportunities. For community members who cannot attend meetings in person due to work schedules, transportation challenges, disabilities, or caregiving responsibilities. Additionally, we ask that meetings be intentionally designed to welcome families who attend with children. Providing child-friendly spaces, flexible seating, or activities helps remove another common barrier to participation and signals that families are truly welcome. We further encourage the district to provide translation, interpretation, and accessibility services, including ASL and translated materials as needed, so that all families can fully understand the information presented and meaningfully engage. Finally, outreach strategies should reflect school-specific demographics, recognizing that some communities may require multiple formats or engagement opportunities to ensure voices are not overlooked. On behalf of the Special Education Advisory Committee, we look forward to continuing to partner with you to ensure that all voices, especially those of students with disabilities and their families, are heard, valued, and included. Thank you for your time and continued commitment to Norfolk students.
Thank you. Aaron Luca Beristain. Did I say that right? Okay.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for inviting me, and good evening, the school members. I am I'm an ESL teacher at Mary Colcott currently, and I've been there for 4 years. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the proposed consolidation and redistricting plan. I recognize that these are complex decisions involving enrollment, staffing, facilities, and finance, and I appreciate the care that you've given to the plan. However, consolidation and redistricting are not just logistical decisions. They shape students' daily experience, who feel welcome, who feel supported, and whether families feel like true partners in our schools. Research consistently shows that students depend on strong relationships built on trust, respect, and safety. Without those foundations, meaningful learning is difficult. At Mary Colcott, we have intentionally fostered a deep sense of belonging, especially to our Latino and ESL students who are slated to be transferred to Ocean View. Our staff work tirelessly to build trust among the students and with their families. This conversation is taking place during a tense political climate for immigrant families. Many in our district are living with uncertainty, attending deportation hearings, coping with separation of family members, and feeling afraid to leave their homes. Children carry that stress with them. They question whether they truly belong. At Calcott, they know they do. That's why the safety and belonging and trust must be essential to this process. The safety of the school is not physical, it's emotional and culturally safe. At Mary Colcott, we have built an environment through strong English learning supports, meaningful family outreach, culturally responsive practices, and consistent communication. The results are clear. They've had academic growth, increased inclusiveness, reduction of absenteeism. The families feel welcome, heard, and valued. At the time, meaningful partnership required accessible communication. Information about the consolidation and community service primarily were put only out in English. We did get a second with some Spanish, but the families most impacted felt excluded, and I had to have them translated. We are very serious about equity engagement and must be equitable. Materials should be available to families in home languages from the start of the meetings and should include interpretation, and families must have genuine opportunity to participate. Given the progress at Mary Colcott, I urge the board to avoid changing Colcott's district boundaries at this time. Preserving the community protects systems and relationships that are clearly working. If changes are unavoidable, think about a phased transition or changing what is already planned out. In this political moment in time, our schools serve as anchors of stability and unity. Let this process reflect not only the fiscal responsibility, but the moral leadership. Protect the progress that has been achieved, prioritize safety and belonging, ensure every family, regardless of language, has a voice.
Thank you. Crystal Galean? Galean? I'm gonna let you say it.
Good evening, members of the school board and community. My name is Crystal Guillen, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the ESL and Spanish-speaking families at Maricalca Elementary who are affected by the proposed redistricting. For these families, Maricalca is more than a school. It is a place where students feel safe and supported and where families know their questions and concerns are heard. Many children who are arrived in this country feeling uncertain have finally found stability. Through the strength of the ESL program and by dedicated teachers, they have grown academically while also feeling understood and valued. Since the announcement of these changes, there have been visible signs of high stress and anxiety among students and parents. Much of the information, including presentations and surveys, have only been shared in English, leaving many families confused about what is happening and what it means for their children. In a nation that already feels deeply unequal and divided, where many immigrant families live with uncertainty and fear every single day, being faced with another sudden change only adds to that emotional weight. Many students, when told they might have to leave the school that they have a deep connection with, broke down into tears, and it is very heartbreaking and concerning to see such reactions. We all know that school transitions are very, very stressful, and when students are already navigating language barriers and cultural adjustments, that stress can directly and greatly affect their mental health and academic progress. I speak from personal experience. Growing up in an Hispanic household with immigrant parents, I understand how overwhelming unfamiliar systems can be. As a former student deeply connected to the Maricalca community, I have spent years supporting Spanish-speaking families and ESL students, witnessing and experiencing myself how a stable and supportive environment allows children to truly succeed. Teachers like Ms. B, the ESL teacher, have built trust and belonging over time, and that foundation cannot be moved and transferred to a new building overnight. This progress that students have made is real and is shown by improvement in test scores and rewards received by the school. With ESL students being a major subgroup, and it is very fragile when stability is removed. I understand that boundary decisions are very complex and many factors come into play when making these decisions, but I respectfully ask that you consider the human impact behind the numbers. On behalf of these students and families, I ask that you protect the environment that has allowed them to grow, to feel safe, and to believe in their potential. Maricalca is not just a school building, it is a home for many ESL and Spanish-speaking families, including my own and myself. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Pastor to come forward and pronounce your name for us. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, daddies and mommy, board of directors, the parents, and everyone. I really appreciate the grace given to me to speak this moment. I understand, I heard about the information about the redistricting of the students, and I know that calls for a new beginning. And everything new has to do with, and everything about new, starting afresh is about new beginnings. And I want to particularly speak about my personal children in Maricalca. So children are of different types. Some children use the left hand. When you force them to use right because you using right, they might miss their intellect in one way or the other. In other words, the children, they have created certain relationship with the teachers, and they already knew what and what. When the teacher speak, they understood what he's saying. In summary, I will bring it as an idea if this gathering could appreciate and accept my apology as in not restricting the students from Maricalca, because one, Maricalca is close by to our apartment. Many and thousands of parents in Mary McLandon intended to be here today, but some are heavy. The husband gone on deployment for the military, so most of them couldn't make it to be here today. So I want us to please for the kingdom of God and for the sake of the children who already created a relationship with the teachers. You know, students at times, when they understood the pattern through which a particular teacher teaches them, they easily understood and do what is needful to be done. But changing the restricting, as in changing the atmosphere, might change certain things, might really mean they have to start afresh from the beginning. So I implore this gathering to rethink about my opinion. If it is welcome, I will appreciate it. For the kids not to be redistricting to another locality that's a bit far from our environment. That's one. In some cases, you know, just pardon me for all said and done. Just please and please, let's create, you know, foundation matters in everything. Foundation matters in everything. Some people started in the foundation with a good and sound, solid foundation. But when they get to the middle schools, they might maneuver one way or the other. But the foundation is the beauty of a building is basically determined by the foundation. So let these kids remain where they already understood what the teacher is speaking, what the teacher is saying, and the teachers too understand what they are saying. And my children
Sir,
too.
Your time has expired. And can you state your name for the board too for us?
That's all I need.
No, can you state your name for the board so they'll know who's speaking?
What's that?
I need you to say your name.
My name is Oluwaseun Olubemi.
Okay.
Oluwaseun means thank you, Lord Jesus. Olubemi means the God back me.
Okay.
God guide me or support me or back me.
Thank you.
God bless you.
All right. And next we have Joyce Ananambamdan. Okay, she must not be here. And then lastly, we have Lisa Walker.
My name is Lisa Walker, and I serve as Reading Specialist at Southside STEM Academy at Campus Stella. I want to share my thoughts around the board and division priority of attracting and retaining highly qualified teachers and staff. We have seen a few presentations around hiring practices being streamlined and the push of early advertising through social media, radio, and job fairs. However, I feel we are not addressing the primary player, teacher burnout. However, I'm going back. The board should be creating practices and policies that address this crisis. Teachers are underpaid. On the last budget table, there was only a $30,000 difference between a step 1 and step 30 classroom teacher, which is appalling. We fill in all the gaps of staffing shortages, endure heavy workloads, mask serious student behavior issues because it's implied that most classroom behaviors are due to lack of student engagement and teacher expectations. Teachers face unrealistic directives all the way from cab to the schoolhouse. We are left feeling ineffective and unable to enjoy downtime. This leads to stress, anxiety, depression, and serious health consequences. I can't say it loud enough that Tier 1 instruction is the only way to reach every goal and every non-negotiable. A few dreams for your consideration are grades K through 2, focus on reading and math. A 4-day work week, which would allow for the flexibility and the professional development that is needed for students and for the 50% of your teaching staff that has 0 to 3 years of experience. Simplifying lesson plans, earning additional days of leave for all the nights and weekends that have been given to MPS, and right-sizing this district immediately. The silent cries are deafening, and drastic changes must be made. Now for a little light among the darkness. Dr. Pohl, I want to personally thank you for using your position of power to start changing the narrative about Southside STEM. It made my heart happy to see our heartfelt work shared during some of your presentations. So in honor of my mom's Diamond Jubilee birthday being celebrated on today, I want to offer you a little bit of advice from my little corner of the diaspora. Always go line dancing, drink lots of water, protect your edges at all costs.
Right.
And the cookout is at my daughter's house in June, so you already know the date. I wish you all the love, joy, happiness, peace, and success your hearts and hands can hold. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Concludes concludes our speakers for this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Tanner. We're going to move down to 4.08, approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
May I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
DeCalagero?
Aye.
Martin? Aye. Olson?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
Thomas? Buffalo?
Aye. Moving down to 6.01, monthly financial report. Dr. Pohl?
Thank you, Chair Buffalo, and Mr. Starks, our CFO, is going to share the information with you all.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the board. Tonight, we will walk through the January 2026 financial highlights and the budget report. Our revised budget totals $476 million. Year-to-date revenues are $258.2 million, or 54.2%. And expenditures and encumbrances total $242.6 million, or 51%. We currently reflect a $15.6 million positive variance. This is a timing variance. Payroll and contracted obligations continue through year end, and many commitments are already encumbered. State revenues are pacing as expected at approximately 50%. City revenues are slightly ahead of midpoint, strengthening our cash position. Federal revenues lag by design due to reimbursement timing. There are no revenue shortfalls at this time.
Oh, I don't know your report. I'm sorry.
Division-wide, we are at 49% expended. Instructional programs are slightly above midpoint, and administrative areas are slightly below due to timing. There are no negative balances at the summary level. There are, however, some variances that appear within specific object codes. Overall, our risk assessment, to summarize the negative balances, we have some negative balances. There are small dollar amounts, mostly timing related, correctable through internal transfers. The only areas that represent ongoing structural monitoring are special education, student attendance and health purchases services, and utilities. These are student need and market-driven call centers, not discretionary spending categories. In closing, at this point in the fiscal year, revenues are stable. Overall spending is proportionate. The division maintains a positive timing variance of $15.6 million. Negative balances are largely procedure and manageable. Special education contracted services remain our primary cost pressure area, and we are actively monitoring it on an ongoing basis. Norfolk Public Schools remains financially stable, but we are closely managing our highest variability accounts to ensure we end the fiscal year in a balanced position. I respectfully submit this report for your receipt and welcome any questions at this time.
School board members, you've heard the report. Are there any questions? Hearing none, may I have a, may I have a motion to approve the monthly financial report subject to audit?
I move that we approve the monthly financial report subject to audit.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
DeCalagero?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Slaughter?
Aye.
Thomas? Buffalo?
Aye. Well, we have come to the end of our agenda, Norfolk Public Schools family, but before I hit the gavel, I do have to take a moment to say to Dr. Pohl, on behalf of the Norfolk School Board, we are truly thankful, and I said I wasn't going to get emotional, thankful for you stepping in the gaps and steering the ship forward for our children. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And on behalf On behalf of the school board, we have a little token of our appreciation. Don't spend it all in one place, but enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. This meeting is adjourned.